We have indeed. I'm going to have to speak exceptionally softly because we've got a leopard. And I'm just trying to see who it is. It still looks like it's Hosana. How cool is this? So we knew that he was still around here, but we were basically in the same predicament that we were in this morning, where we had Hosana up in the tree, snarling, looking down to exactly the position that he's in now. And that is where Thandi was. And you can't, it's very, very difficult to see from the vehicle. We might be able to get Steve in here. He might be able to get a gap abs. We'll be able to look down. Now we are so lucky. So lucky to be viewing a leopard on foot now. For those of you, don't worry, we're not in any danger. It's very safe. Nikki, please tell Steve just to stand by. We will get back to him in a minute. We can't really talk on the radio right now, so we've had to turn the radio off. We are being quiet. He's actually feeding. He's feeding on the remains of the daycare. So we aren't going to stay here long. We'll enjoy this for a moment. He's settled down now. He was obviously watching us, assessing the situation, just like we were discussing before if we were to bump an animal on foot. And we've also still got elephants around us, so we are on high alert at the moment, but we are fine. He hasn't snarled. He didn't put his ears back. He didn't move his tail in a way to show that he was unhappy. And I always like to describe it as, if you had an intruder come into your house, you would not carry on eating dinner. So he's fine, he's relaxed. Nikki, we're not going to be able to do a long one. It's literally going to have to be like a minute, and then we're going to have to move out of here, I'm afraid. Are you happy to do an action broadcast for 1 minute? Okay. Everybody, I'm going to go quiet now, and I'm just going to wait for everything to get set up, and we're going to be doing an action broadcast. It's not going to be a long one, and then we'll call Stephen. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sabi Sand, the heart of the leopards. We are on bushwalk at the moment for this live action broadcast, and I have got my voice very, very low, as I do not want to scare this leopard. But I can't believe it. We had his tracks, we found him, and we've managed to get him after tracking for most of the afternoon. My name is Tayla McCurdy, and on camera with me bringing you this amazing footage is David. Now, we're not going to be able to stay here very long, so very quickly get as many questions as you can, and all you have to do is just comment below. Now, this is a young male leopard by the name of Hosana, the son of Karula, a very famous leopard that used to live up in the northern Sabi Sands. And for those of you that are worried about my safety, don't be. We've got very experienced guide here by the name of Rexon, who is keeping us nice and safe. And this leopard hasn't exhibited any aggressive behavior. Katie, you're asking which leopard is this? It's Hosana. Hosana, the young prince of Djuma. Now, he made a daycare kill. I think he killed it yesterday, in fact, or maybe even last night. And he's been feeding on it. He's taken it down from the tree because we found him up here in the same spot this morning. And he then disappeared. But it's a spot that we can't get into with a vehicle. So we're quite lucky. You're probably wondering, how on earth are we looking down on top of him? He's down in a drainage line. He's down, right down in this drainage line. So we are quite high above him. We must be about 20 meters above him, and we're also standing quite far back on the bank. And if he was unhappy with us, he would not be eating his meal. He would stop, he would have growled, he would have let us know that he's unhappy, but he's not unhappy. Right, oh goodness, there's a familiar name. Hello, Pippa from Hoedspruit. It's great to have you watching and joining us. Well, we hope to see you soon back at Djuma. It'll be nice to see your face around again. I think we may have just missed you, in fact. Right, this is so cool. Now, John, you're wondering when it's this close, does it get my heart pounding? If I had a stethoscope and could put it up against my mic, you would definitely hear my heart thumping. It makes the adrenaline pump through your veins. I cannot tell you how privileged I am to be on foot with a leopard. We've actually approached him a couple of times. We make sure that we keep our distance though, and because we are on foot, we don't want to be spending too much time with him. So that is all we're going to have time for this afternoon. We're going to move away now, and we're actually going to bring a vehicle in. But this is one of the most amazing rewards about being on a bushwalk is tracking down the animal and the reward of finding them and them being completely and utterly relaxed with you. That's why the Sabi Sand is the best place to view leopards in South Africa. But I hope that you've enjoyed this just as much as David and Rexon and myself have, and you can continue watching Safari Live. All you have to do is Google Safari Live. So we hope to see you soon. We're going to bring on Steve in, and he'll have another view from the vehicle. But we'll chat to you all soon.
Stiff.
That was epic. That is amazing. Right, we are back with regular viewers. Nikki, we need to try and get out of here. We've got elephants and things, so we need to just concentrate. I'm going to send you across to Steve, though, and Rexon's going to jump on the radio and we'll call him in. But how cool is this? We'll see you again just now.
Good afternoon, my beautiful little prince. We have indeed found him, and he is looking fantastic. We came back into the area that Rex and Tayla managed to find him, and we were here. I popped my head out a few times, and it's very thick bush down here, and they found him, and we have come back, and there was 3 elephants exactly where he is right now, and they walked through and out of the drainage to the other side. He was watching them quite closely, but now he's moved back down to exactly underneath the tree that they had the Dacre kill in earlier. So as I suspected, he wouldn't have gone very far, but it's just very hard to have seen. I mean, the vegetation here is very thick. He's moving off to the left there, Seb. If you can see him. Campus. Can a leopard lose its fear of man, or lose its fear? I don't think it's a fear that they lose. They don't. I mean, Hosana was very relaxed from a young age with his sister. Their mother was very relaxed. I had situations with the male leopard at Singita years ago that I could walk into a drainage line like this one. He's coming up right to us. He's coming to say hello. I told you, this is my friend. He absolutely loves saying hello to me and Seb. Seb was on my interview drive with me, and he's come to say, hello, everybody. Look how big I've gotten. I apologize for the back of the vehicle there. We have no control over where he goes. This is 100% live, and as you can see, he is not concerned with our vehicle at all. So it's not that he loses his fear of us, it's that he never had fear of us. He doesn't see us as anything to be a threat from. The instinct from his mom was never to be fearful of man, never to run away, so he doesn't really know what we are. We're just sort of like this object that keeps appearing in his life. And he's right behind us. There is nothing I can do to reposition. Seb has got an entire backboard in his way, but we're just going to have to wait and see what he comes about. You might hear a vehicle in the background. We've got one of the Jacana vehicles with us that was also trying to see him, and we managed to guide him in, so that was wonderful. But while we try and get a better look at this magnificent prince that is, I call my friend, we're going to go to Tayla, who believes got a wonderful sighting of elephants at Treehouse Dam. He has not jumped in the car, but he thought about it, I think. He has come up onto the road, and he's given us an absolutely wonderful show. He was just had his face in the branches a moment ago, and Seb informs me that that was where Tundi's scent marked this morning. He was doing his grimace response as he's activating the Jacobson organ in the top of the mouth, and all the communication chemical signals going to the head about Tundi and her receptiveness and where she is from a reproductive point of view. All sorts of things have been communicated, and once again we are with a Jacana vehicle, and they're giving us a little bit of a space to jump in front of them there. Hello, Mia. Mia wants to know, is Hosana in danger of a hyena finding the kill? And yes, of course, if it is not in the tree, he'll have no chance of securing it against hyena, but they will find it in, I just want to know, it went here. It's gone down into this drainage line. we're just going to follow him. So if he does not hoist the kill, he will lose it. That is a guaranteed. The hyena will smell it. He's going that way. Just informing our friend so we can keep tabs on him. We want to make sure we don't lose him. And in this kind of drainage line, it's very easy to lose a leopard. So he's in danger of losing a kill definitely all the time, but not himself. I don't think he's in too much danger of a hyena. As soon as a hyena shows itself, oh, we're picking a bad line here, Seb. It's okay. We'll just go back out the way we came, and we'll see if we can keep following him. And yeah, if he doesn't hoist it, and it was not hoisted, I couldn't see how much meat there was. So I'm getting the feeling that it's that time of day where he's thirsty. Okay, Seb's got a visual of him. He's moving into the thick bush there. Very hard to see. I think he might cross. I think he might be going to Treehouse Dam. Not Treehouse, to Twin Dams. So I'm wondering if we should go back this way or this way. Okay, we're going to go back to Tayla while we try and find him again. And she's got her elephants. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Scotty. Yes, we did. He tried to give us the slip, but Sev and I were on it. And he is now in a very inaccessible place, the same drainage line as the one before, but he has moved probably about 50 to 80 meters further south from where he was. And he's really in the deep, thick vegetation. Nice, steep gully from side to side, and I'm sure it's nice and cool down there. Lots of rank vegetation, and it's quite moist. There's a few puddles of water. Take Care would like to know how leopards navigate, and that's very interesting. I mean, I think that they learn where they're going, and a lot would have to do with smell. It's very difficult to really understand how they navigate, but it's incredible how a female leopard can find her way back to her den site time and time again with seemingly no effort. So I think a lot of it's got to do with smell. There must be some form of memory, but then it's also instinct. How do our domestic cats know how to get home? How do they know how to keep finding their place? It's got a lot to do with memory, and I know domestic cats have got a lot to do with smell, hence why they stay where they are. They rub themselves against things all the time. So I'd say it's not too dissimilar for leopards, but also they're very, very inquisitive. They spend a lot of time exploring their territories, and what I've seen in the past is how leopards will often follow very similar routes to and from areas, and once they make a kill, they spend time at that kill, only leaving to go get something to drink before going straight back to where they were. So I hope that answers your question, Take Care. But he's not doing too much at the moment, as is to be expected of a leopard at this time of day. I assumed he was probably going to go and drink, and there is a little bit of a puddle just down here to the right that he probably had a drink of while we were trying to find him again. Just down here in the rocks, there's a little bit of water there that we actually, when we found him, saw him vaulting that water. Not a huge amount, but it is wet, and leopards don't seem too bothered by the liquids that they consume, neither the meat. And he is now lying as flat as they can get. He's not looking very full, so I'm assuming there's still a fair bit. Yes, next comments on the bush pea, which is just in front of him. There we go. I spoke about these yesterday on my drive with the Ferg. The bush pea, very nice to be used as an insecticide and as a legume, meaning it is has rhizomes and mycorrhiza, not rhizomes, has mycorrhiza and a symbiotic relationship with mycorrhiza, which is a nitrogen-fixing bacteria. So it adds a little bit of color to the spot pattern of Hosana lying in the drainage line, and I don't see him doing too much too soon, except for swatting at the flies, which seem to be driving him a little bit mad. I've seen him do this before. We saw in Hukumuri the other day, also attempting to swat some flies. I think it must be a never-ending battle for the animals out here. They don't have the want and the need of, or they don't have the ability to create insecticides for themselves to keep these things at bay. And their cleanliness is also quite doubtful. Marvellous. Hopefully he'll come out of there and give us some more views, but you saw how he came right up to the vehicle before to tell Seb and I, nice to see you chaps again. And it is indeed nice to see this gentleman once more. I was looking for him this morning and yesterday, always looking for him, and we slipped past. Instead of turning left onto this road, I turned right, and lo and behold, others were left to find him, but it's okay. We managed to come back this afternoon. I'm just super happy that Faith, our director from the Mara, is down here. She was out this morning and got to see Hosana and Tandi, and I believe also Tandi's cub. So she was super spoilt for her first drive in the Sabi Sands. Jocelyn, my favorite animal to track would be a leopard. They are probably the hardest animal to track, and when you find them, there is a huge amount of success that rushes through, or pride that rushes through my body. Lions are probably second. I've tracked many, many more lions than I have leopard, purely because they are not as stealthy, and they are generally more than one. And every time I find a lion, I get very excited. I've only tracked a handful of leopards successfully in my life, but it is something that here in the Sabi Sands I'm hoping to practice and work on. But it is definitely one of the hardest of the animals to track. I'm sure Scott will agree with me there. But when you have experts like Rexon and Herbie, it seems to make it a whole lot easier. But I tell you what, folks, it's taken years and years and years for those individuals to acquire those skills. They've spent their life in the bush. If you take all of the skills that you put out there, from whatever business degrees or whatever sports you've played, whatever, put that all into one skill, and then you can possibly have only the smallest idea of what some of these extremely good trackers are capable of doing. Toby Take would like to know if Hukumuri would see Hosana as a threat. Most certainly. Those of you who were lucky enough to see Hosana and Tingana on my interview drive, we were watching Tingana, and yes, Hosana is his son, but as Hosana started approaching, Tingana turned his head, didn't look at him, and was letting off his growls. That's what leopards do when they see another leopard. They don't just attack. It's not what they do. Lions will often attack, but they will growl, low growls, and not look at the individual. And Hosana immediately started playing the card of I'm not aggressive. He started just sort of jostling around, and he almost behaved like a child would after seeing something frightening, you know. He sort of became all sort of childlike and didn't show any of the posturing that a dominant male leopard would show. So Hosana would show what we call submissive behavior if he saw Hukumuri, and yes, you could probably see some action happening between them, but it probably won't be that aggressive, but Hukumuri would dominate him and probably chase him away. All depends on how Hosana deals with it at the time. If he reacts back with aggressive behavior, there will be conflicts and there will be confrontation. So any male leopard coming of age will be chased away by male leopards normally. That is the sort of the stand of what happens, depending on how they behave. He's at 2 years of age now. He's almost there. He's probably got about 6 months to a year until he's really going to make a show of it for himself. So he's still got some time, and I think he's going to avoid males like that. He'll walk around and he'll smell and he'll sort of pick up on their signs, but he'll try and avoid them if he can, purely because he doesn't want to get a hiding, which is what I'm sure he would get if he met Hukumuri. So we're going to stay right here, folks. Please keep sending through your questions and comments at #SafariLive. And we're going to go back over to Scott Dyson, who I believe is right on our eastern boundary. Taylor, I hope you managed to track whatever it is you're tracking there, and we do still have the prince, although he is as flat as a pancake right now, and almost invisible. If we didn't know he was there, he would not be. That's how camouflaged these cats are. You can see him panting. He doesn't seem to be extremely full. You can see the little bit there sort of towards the right of the screen where the belly would really be extended higher than the hip. It is not. So I don't think he's eaten too much of his deka. But we didn't see the deka when we went back there. We had elephants in the area and he was moving around, quite interested to know what they might make of him. And then he moved off. So I'm sure if he gets hungry again, he'll move back, because the hard work of catching the animal has been done. As I mentioned, the little puddle of water is right here, so he is wanting for nothing. It is starting to cool down. The sun is slowly starting to make its way towards the horizon, and the time of the leopard is upon us. There we go. Seb's going to show you where we are. Laura, it's a type of bush pea. I will find the name for you quickly, at least the genus name. Just give me a moment to find it. A friend of mine helps me with these identifications. Difficult when you don't. The genus name is Tifrosia, one of the bush peas that are found locally, and it can be used as an insecticide, and some of them can also be used as a fish poison. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but there are a number of species, and you can tell that it's a pea by the bean-like shape of the pod, and that is indicative of legumes that we find throughout the world, I do believe. Becca would like to know, and that's a very interesting question, what kills the trees the most, lack of water or elephant? And most certainly it would be lack of water. These trees have evolved with elephants. They've also evolved with the climate. So when we get extreme drought, what will happen is you'll get big drops in water table, and that has been known to kill quite a few trees. But what is interesting is if we had to actually put that onto a scale, it might actually even be quite equal, because trees actually do very well in drought. So it is a difficult question. I would say that drought will kill small trees and saplings versus large trees, because large trees have got extensive root networks, are able to tap in to the groundwater. But when we get droughts here, you will see a decline in the smaller trees, but also you'll see a huge decline in the amount of grass. So actually trees do much better in drought than grass do. So it is a very sort of a conundrum that really, and elephants don't actually kill too many trees. They damage them. And these trees have evolved with elephants, so when the trees get damaged, they break and they fall in a certain way, and that is part and parcel of what happens in this ecosystem. Quite often, they will evolve to just grow back from the roots, or grow back from the broken stem. But yes, a very good question. He is still being annoyed by those flies. I think maybe I'm going to get him, I should have got him a fly swatter for his birthday. I think he would have liked that. That's my deep asks a question I'm not sure I understand. Will Hukumuri's movements be limited because he's a threat? Is that what you said, Nix? Okay, so Hukumuri has moved into the area, and his movements are, he's challenging Tingana, and what we've seen is that he's taking over areas that we know Tingana has dominated for years. So Hukumuri's movements will not be influenced by Hosana in any way, if that is anything to go by, but it will be influenced by other dominant male leopards. Ideally, if he saw Hosana, he'd try and chase him off and get him as far away from these areas as he possibly can, so that he does not become a threat at any other time. But through scent marking and through calling, these animals are demarcating areas to avoid conflict, to avoid confrontation, as they do not want to fight. You cannot fight every individual you see. I've always used this sort of analogy with students that, for example, if I stepped out of my house, now let's talk about just at DRC where we all live, there are quite a number of boys there, or should I say men. Some might behave like boys, but if every single day I walked out of my door and every single one of them was willing to fight me, I'm going to have a very hard time every single day. I'm not going to say I'm going to beat them all. I'm not going to say I'm going to lose to any of them. But if every single day I have to fight every male that I see, wow, there's going to be a hard life ahead of you. So by having boundaries, what we as humans have these days is we have a fence, we have a driveway, we have our pavement, and that is our home. And if someone invades that home, physically invades that home, then we can take to action. But if someone just walks past and has a look inside, there's no threat there, because they are not trying to invade your privacy or your territory, so to speak. So by males demarcating territories, females as well, they are keeping out all the males that are not willing to fight. So the males that are willing to have a fight will step into that barrier, just like we could talk about a boxing ring. The males that are willing to fight will step inside. If you're a boxer and you stand in a ring and you have to fight every single person that's standing outside, there's no chance of you being successful in any way. So I hope that answers your question. The territory and the scent marking and the calling is to avoid conflict as much as possible. And when that one boy comes past, or man, should I say, who's wanting to have a go, you'll be ready, and then it'll be an even sort of match. But if any male that comes past you have to fight, it will be a very hard going. Even if you're far stronger and far more physically fit than an individual, there will be weakness invoked through injury. So these animals will avoid injury. So a lot of people wonder, why demarcate territories? There's a lot of energy, it requires energy, but it's a lot less energy than fighting every single person you see, or every single other male that you see. So it keeps them out, and it only allows those who are willing to have a go to cross that line, because those scent marking lines are like barriers. They are walls. An animal will walk, it'll smell it, and it'll go, whoa, hang on a second, I'm walking into territory that I am not very aware of. And if it happens to come across the dominant male, the behavior will be submissive. Hosana will probably roll on his back, or he'll behave like he did with Tingana, a very sort of aloof and, oh, I didn't even know you were there, Dad, and all sort of playful. But if he walks into that area and he knows that male's there and he wants to have a go, when he sees him, there will be interaction, there will be growling, there will be behavior that is indicative of aggressive males. I hope that answers your question. Thanks, Nix. Okay, so we are staying here with this beautiful prince who is not causing trouble with anybody else. And we're going to go to Scott Dyson, who I'm glad I don't have to fight every day, and he is just driving. Do have a cat, and welcome. We have got ourselves a very flat cat that is busy lying down here in the drainage line, probably about 10 to 12 yards in front of our vehicle, and it is a beautiful male cat. He's a leopard, and his name is Hosana. Welcome, Legacy Elementary School. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Seb Rombi on the camera. And we managed to find this male leopard. He was found this morning by Tayla herself, and Seb, actually, and he was not far from where we are now, and he had a dead animal, a duiker, up the tree with him that he was feeding on. So we came back this afternoon to try and find him and the duiker, and some elephants came into the area and pushed him, and he's moved probably about 60 to 80 yards from where he was before, and he is now lying flat in the drainage line and doing exactly what leopards do best, and that is relaxing. Very hard to see, isn't it? If you didn't know it was there, there's his foot sitting on the rock. If you didn't know he was there, it would be invisible. Aidan would like to know, how do leopards know they're safe when they're sleeping? Their ears are always very, very alert. They are a very sensitive and in-tuned animal with their environment, and any sound that moves will alert them, and they can react so quickly. If any of you have got a domestic cat back home, have you ever noticed when it's sitting there, its eyes are fully closed, it looks like it is fast asleep, and something happens, you don't even know what it is, and that cat is gone in absolutely split seconds. So they are always alert, they always know what's going on, but they rest. So the ears never stop. Living out here in the savannah where we are in the African bush in Djuma in South Africa. All of the animals here are constantly and forever on edge and alert to what is going on around them. They don't have the benefit that we do as people, where we can lock ourselves indoors, behind doors and gates. These animals have to constantly be aware of what is moving and twitching in the long grass around them. So they're constantly alert, and if they were not, they would not survive. Hello, Shelby. Very good question. How does a young leopard find its own territory? Well, first of all, a young leopard will not have a territory. He will spend time. Well, let's go to the basics, okay? So female leopards, they have the cubs, and when they have a female cub, that female will basically carve out a section of her mother's territory, whereas the male will generally move away under pressure from other males. So that is essentially what will happen, is the female, when she gets to 3-4 years of age, will carve out a territory within her mother's territory and stay pretty close to home, whereas the males will move away and they will encounter other males, they'll encounter lions, they'll encounter other females, and eventually they will have moved far away that when they are big enough and strong enough, will have encountered enough action in their life to then be deemed dominant and then to find a territory. But by that stage, they will have had many scraps and many fights. They will be an efficient hunter. They will be able to provide for themselves. And if they don't manage to get that far, then sadly, their genetics will die with them. But the survival of the fittest out here, only the strong will survive, only the strong will breed, and only the strong genes will move forward in the population. So this male leopard is still within his sort of birth area, and it's very interesting that we're able to spend time with these animals and see what they're doing. He was actually... his mom disappeared when he was about a year old, and he was semi-adopted by another female that this morning was right here with him, and he had all sorts of interesting interaction with. So whether he's going to move away from Djuma and find another territory in the near future we will see, but hopefully he stays a bit longer because we absolutely love spending time with him. But on that note, I'm going to go over to another good friend of mine, Scott Dyson, and he is also out like me, but on drive. Too much of a risk to the kingfish itself, but he is in there somewhere. There he is. He's lying very, very flat. He's not doing too much, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you must remember this is a live game drive safari, and we have no idea what could happen next. This leopard could jump up and do something crazy, or it could just lie here for the next 3 hours. We have no way of knowing. But we like to sit and spend time and observe and see what happens. Drew would like to know, how many hours a day do leopards sleep? Well, basically, they will spend a bit of time feeding, a bit of time walking around, and if they have some food, then they don't have to do any hunting, so they'll probably sleep between 18 and 20 hours a day, very similar to that of lions. They have got a very high diet of protein, and so they spend a lot of time just lying there and digesting it. So how marvelous would that be? 18 hours in bed every day. They don't have Netflix or anything like that to keep them occupied. Just flies to nibble at their ears and birds to shout at them. So, folks, we're about to turn over to infrared, which means we're able to watch these animals at night without messing with them. We're not going to put any lights on them. Seb switched to the infrared, which means that this animal is completely visible to the camera, but to the naked eye, shortly, it will be invisible. And Kiara would like to know, where are leopards found? We find leopards all over southern Africa, all over most parts of Africa, in fact, wherever there are small to medium-sized antelope, and wherever there's suitable habitat. Although they love savanna biome, they love areas with riverine areas where there's lots of drainage lines, where there's tall trees. To escape other predators such as lion and hyena, they need tall trees to be able to climb into. But pretty much anywhere where you find small to medium-sized animals throughout southern Africa, we find them. Even in agricultural areas where most of the other animals have been removed because of farming, you still have leopards coming in and out of those areas. They are very, very adaptable and very resilient to changes in the environment. And all over the savanna of South Africa, we have multitudes of leopards all over the place. And we're very blessed in Djuma in South Africa, in the Sabi Sands, to be able to see them as much as we do. And I think they like being superstars. They like being on the camera and showing the world how beautiful they are. And it's really important for the conservation of these cats to show them, to show people that there is more of a value to them than others, such as hunting, which not ideal for right now. But this leopard is not doing too much, boys and girls, so we're probably going to leave him shortly. As I said, it is a live safari. We only have about 20 minutes left. We're going to see if we can go find you something else of interest. And while we do so, we're going to go across to my friend Scott Dyson and see what he has for you. Thank you, Scotty D. We'll see you back at camp shortly. And look at what we found, ladies and gentlemen. We have found Hosana. He has come back onto the road. Our gamble paid off. We decided to leave and come back again, and this is what happens if you are patient and you have good heart, friends in high places, because Hosana is friendly, and he's now going to come and walk straight past the car and say hello. There are buffalo very close by here, and Hosana was found a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago, with a baby buffalo. Which, sorry about the car there, folks. I can't do anything about this. We have no control over his movements. And have a look at how big his pupils are. Look at that. They have the ability to completely enlarge their pupils, dilate their pupils to take in all the light around them. Folks, it is pitch black around me. There is not an inkling of light, and yet he is looking straight through my soul. Sorry about my head. I don't know if he's trying to come and say hello again, because that's what he does. And what a fantastic afternoon we've had. I'm so glad we were able to show you Hosana at the end here, so you can see what a male leopard looks like with the face and his eyes. And we're going to say thank you to the school and for all the viewers for joining us. From me, Steve Falconbridge, and Seb Romby.